All right, let's dive into one of the most critical processes in all of project management, controlling the schedule. Now, this isn't about just staring at a calendar and hoping for the best. Nope. This is about actively wrestling your project's timeline into submission so you can deliver on time every single time. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the classic problem, why projects just spiral out of control. Then we'll introduce the solution, which is basically a GPS for your project. We'll open up the consultant's toolkit, look at how you turn raw data into smart decisions, compare how this works in traditional versus agile projects, and then wrap it all up. Sound good? Let's jump in. We have all been there, right? The project kicks off, everyone's excited, the plan looks perfect, and then a few weeks later, it's just chaos. It's a story as old as time, and honestly, it's one of the biggest money pits in business today. So what's really going on here? Why does this keep happening? It's usually not a bad plan. The real culprit is the failure to control that plan once reality kicks in. That's the huge difference between a successful project and just constant, stressful firefighting. And that brings us to the solution. I want you to stop thinking about schedule control as a rearview mirror that just tells you how far you've fallen behind. Instead, think of it like a sophisticated GPS, a proactive navigation system that's guiding your project, helping you see the traffic jams up ahead so you can reroute before you get stuck. So what is control schedule in official terms? Well, the PMBOK definition is right here, and it boils down to 3 key actions: monitoring what's happening, updating the schedule with that info, and managing any changes. It's about actively steering the ship, not just passively checking the map now and then. At its heart, this whole thing is a simple, continuous 4-step loop. You see what's actually happening, you compare that reality to your plan, you figure out the difference, the variance, and then you do something about it. And this isn't a once-a-month thing. This cycle needs to be running constantly, like your project's heartbeat. Okay, so let's get practical. How do you actually do all this? We're going to break it down into a simple 3-part toolkit. To really nail schedule control, you need to know what information you need, what to do with it, and what actions to take as a result. Let's call them the briefing, the analysis engine, and the action plan. First up, the briefing. Before we can even think about controlling anything, we need the right intel. These are the documents, the data, the facts on the ground that tell us, here's the plan, and here's what's actually happening. Without this, you're just flying blind. Now, these inputs are non-negotiable. You need the project management plan. That's where you find your baselines, the line in the sand you measure everything against. You need the detailed project documents for the nitty-gritty, and you absolutely, positively need work performance data. This is the raw, unfiltered truth from the team about what's getting done. And finally, you have your organizational process assets, basically your company's playbook and tools. Miss any one of these, and you're working with an incomplete picture. All right, once we have all our briefing materials, it's time to fire up the analysis engine. This is the magic step where we turn all that raw data into actual insight. These are the tools that tell us if we're on track, and more importantly, if we're not, they tell us why. A classic powerhouse tool here is earned value analysis. Let's just focus on 2 big metrics. Schedule variance, or SV, tells you if you're ahead or behind in terms of dollars. But for me, the real gem is the Schedule Performance Index, the SPI. This is your efficiency score. Think about it. An SPI of 0.9 means that for every hour of work you plan to get done, you're only actually completing about 54 minutes worth. It's a powerful early warning sign that tiny delays are starting to snowball. Now, if you're in an agile world, your best friend is the iteration burn-down chart. It's so simple and so powerful. The straight line is your perfect world plan. The other line is reality. The gap between those 2 lines, that's your problem. If that gap is getting wider every day, that's a huge visual red flag telling you that something is wrong. Scope creep, a technical roadblock, something, and you need to talk about it now. So, what happens when your analysis says you're falling behind? You've basically got 2 major levers you can pull to compress the schedule. First, you can crash it. That means throwing more people or money at the problem, like authorizing overtime. It works, but it's going to cost you. Your other option is to fast track, which means doing things at the same time that you originally planned to do one after another. This one doesn't always cost more money, but boy, does it crank up the risk. Look, analysis is totally useless if it doesn't lead to action. And that brings us to the final and maybe most important part of our toolkit, the action plan. These are the concrete outputs that allow you to actually take control of the situation. So what do these actions look like? Well, you take that raw data and turn it into work performance information, data with context that tells a story. You create updated schedule forecasts so you can manage everyone's expectations. You submit formal change requests to make deliberate, thought-out course corrections. And then, you make sure you get those approved changes into the official plan updates so everyone is working off the same page. Let's really zero in on this for a second, because turning data into decisions is what separates the great project managers from the good ones. It's about building an intelligence funnel that leads to smart, decisive choices. The PMBOK makes a brilliant distinction here that we have to understand. Work performance data is just the raw fact. Activity X took 5 days. So what? It's just noise. Work performance information is the output from our analysis engine. It's the signal. Activity X took 5 days, which is 2 days longer than we planned, putting the entire project behind schedule. See the difference? One is a fact, the other is actionable intelligence. And it's that intelligence that gives you the power to act. Your forecasts are no longer wild guesses. They're credible predictions. Your change requests aren't panicked reactions. They're strategic moves. And by protecting your original baseline and only updating it through formal changes, you maintain the integrity of your plan. It remains your source of truth. Now, a question I get all the time is, does any of this apply if I'm running an Agile project? And the answer is a resounding yes. Absolutely. But the focus of that control shifts. The principles are exactly the same, but how you apply them is tailored to your methodology. Think about it like this. A traditional, predictive project is like a freight train on a fixed track. Your job as the project manager is to keep that train on that exact track and make sure it pulls into the station precisely on time. An agile project, on the other hand, is more like a sailboat. You have a destination in mind, sure, but your job is to constantly adjust the sails based on the changing winds and currents to get there as efficiently as possible, always maximizing the value of the journey. So let's bring this all home. What does mastering your project timeline really mean? It means making the shift from being reactive to being proactive. It's about having a system in place that gives you those critical early warnings and empowers you to make smart, timely decisions before things go off the rails. You know, the PMBOK guide itself says it perfectly. The number one benefit of this whole process is that you maintain your schedule baseline. So why is that so important? Because a reliable, protected baseline is the only thing that lets you measure your performance accurately and make credible promises to your stakeholders. It is the bedrock of your entire timeline. So there you have it, the framework, the system, and a powerful toolkit for taking command of your schedule. The only question left is, how are you going to use it? How will you apply the briefing, the analysis engine, and the action plan to move from just reacting to fires to being truly in control of your next project's destiny? Thanks for tuning in.